Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the How to Survive podcast. I'm Joe and I'm joined as ever by Chris.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Not so good, mate. Had a rough day.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been shot at, bitten, clawed, mauled, crushed, suffocated, bereaved, buried alive, burned, ice bathed, smashed on rocks, fallen off a cliff, shot at again, shot at some more. I spent the night in a horse carcass.
Yeah.
My friend was scalped. I got stabbed and strangled and slashed and almost drowned. But it's okay. Revenge is in God's hands, not mine. And we're here to talk about The Revenant.
Yeah, sounds like you're desperate for an Oscar.
Yes, I am. It's been too long, really.
Yeah, so obviously we went through everything in vague terms there, but obviously as ever on the podcast, we're not going to be worrying about spoilers or anything. So if you haven't seen The Revenant, obviously it's just come out, please go away, watch it, and then come back and listen to the podcast. Yeah,
it's really worth seeing, and probably definitely worth seeing in a very big screen. So go seek it out. But now we're going to throw on with the show. So The Revenant tells the story of Hugh Glass. Oh, sorry, that's your mum. Hugh Glass.
Mum jokes again.
Yeah. So Leonardo DiCaprio is Hugh Glass. We'll use the English pronunciation for this podcast, being that we are in London. He is a fur trapper of some merit, and very familiar with the wilderness of North America, because he, in some way, has been linked to the Pawnee Indians through marriage. So he's sort of lived a lot of his life on the land. And that becomes a lot more explored in the movie. But the movie begins with him on an elk hunt. He returns to the camp, which is immediately overrun by Pawnee Native Americans. We may call them Indians during this podcast just because, cowboys and Indians. But we're not racist, okay? So the camp's overrun, there's a massacre, and Glass and his colleagues are forced into the river, into a boat, which they then sail away for safety. They make land, and they begin sort of hunting for food and things, when Glass is overrun by a bear, which mauls him to within an inch of his life. He's then carried around for a while on a stretcher, but given up for dead by pretty much everyone. Yeah,
the journey's too tough. The journey's tough enough when it's just them, but trying to carry someone as injured as he is on a stretcher,
and it doesn't look good for him. He's bleeding out, and his throat was torn out. He'll be lucky if he survives this.
He's in a bad way.
Yeah. So his son, who is a Pawnee Indian, Hawk, he volunteers to stay with him, as does another young lad, and importantly, John Fitzgerald, played by Tom Hardy, who is, from the second we meet him, clearly a murderous psychopath.
Yeah.
Who, in short turn, psychopathically murders Hawk, who is attempting to. He's kind of trying to euthanize Leo.
Yeah, it's sort of. We'll come back to this, but yeah, basically, it looks to all intents and purposes that Glass isn't going to survive.
Yeah.
So he's basically trying to put him out of his misery.
Yes. And Hawk, his son, thinks, well, we'll see if he pulls through. And for his trouble, receives a knife through the ribcage and is murdered.
Yeah.
Then the other man who stayed behind, Bridger, he returns to camp. Hawk's missing, and Tom Hardy's character, Fitzgerald, tells him, oh, there's Pawnee Indians coming, we need to get out of here. Let's just leave Leo. And they give him a shallow grave with very little burial, and they leave him for dead. After a little while, Glass comes to his senses, pulls himself out of the grave, and drags himself over to his son's body, where he lies there for a while before again coming to his senses. And he begins to make his way across the country on a mission of revenge.
Yeah, crawling, walking with a stick, swimming.
He makes it to water, where he has a very painful drink, before being found by the Indians, who have been hunting him and his group.
Yeah, the chief is trying to get back his daughter, Hawaka,
who's been kidnapped by white men.
Yeah.
But we don't know who yet. So they start shooting at Glass, and he jumps into the river
to escape.
Into rapids.
Yeah.
And he's dragged down a few waterfalls before he makes land again. And once there, he spends the night before making his way and finding another Indian gentleman who
shares buffalo liver with him.
Kindly.
And then...
They make their journey together for a little while.
Yeah.
And he tends to his wounds. This man is obviously man of the earth.
Yeah, builds him a sweat lodge because he's got severe infections from his wounds, and leaves him in there basically to sweat all the poison out overnight.
Which he does. And in the morning he's sort of feeling fresh again. He makes his way a little further, where he comes across a camp of Frenchmen, and there he finds the missing Pawnee daughter.
Yeah, he also finds his friend who'd built him the sweat lodge. Yeah. He was hanging from a tree, courtesy of the French.
Yeah, with the message, "We are all savages," emblazoned in French across his chest.
Yeah.
So he helps the captive girl escape, where she's being held as a sex slave, which is pretty unpleasant. But they make it out of there.
Yeah.
And then he comes across some more Indians, or the same Indians, who shoot at him, and they chase him, and he rides his horse off a cliff, which you've seen in the trailer. That night, he survives the impact, and that night he cuts open a horse, the horse that fell off the cliff, and in the same way as Luke and Han kept warm in the...
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Exactly. Just to keep warm, he sleeps in a horse. He eventually does make it back to his group, where Domhnall Gleeson's character,
Captain Andrew Henry,
he says, well, when you were on your way back, basically Fitzgerald got wind of it, he's made off with our money, so they set out together to find him. Unlucky for Captain Henry, he gets overrun and scalped by Fitzgerald, who eventually is met by Glass, and they have a showdown to the death, which ends in Glass having the upper hand. And then he realises something his Indian friend told him earlier, which is that revenge is in the hands of the creator. And so he sets Fitzgerald adrift into the water, where he's immediately picked up by Indians and scalped. Like, I don't know what he thought was going to happen. We'll come to this, because I've got a bone to pick with this scene.
Okay, all right. I thought it was pretty clear.
Well, we'll come back to it.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So that's basically the film.
Yeah.
It ends with him hallucinating that his wife's there. I guess it's kind of ambiguous, but not that ambiguous when you think about it.
Yeah, he's probably dying.
Yes, right? And going to meet his wife.
Yeah.
And his wife, by the way, if you haven't seen the film, was murdered by white men.
Yeah. And there's some debate as to whether or not Hugh Glass shot a colonial lieutenant. Yeah. And it's implied that he did, basically. I
feel like stuff like that would have worked better. I mean, it's based on a novel, and I haven't read the novel. Yeah. Which makes a change for this podcast, but I'm actually in the book.
Yeah. But actually, on page 37.
Yeah. But I feel like that sort of theme, and the theme of like fatherhood, and the themes expressed in the film would have come across a lot better in print, because you can make better associations of things, and you can see people's thoughts. Whereas in the film, it's kind of like, it's obviously not playing on his mind that much that he killed this guy.
Yeah, but I guess so. Well, he keeps flashing back to it though.
Yeah. But
so it's whether or not is whether how much you see the cryptic dream sequences as being like his guilt and fears, like whether they're sort of nightmares or they're like fever dreams.
Yeah, exactly. Being ill. But all in all, Chris, did you enjoy The Revenant?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I was almost surprised when the credits started rolling. It was weird. It's like an incredibly immersive film, I think, which is in no small part due to how it's shot. I think it should be considered like the nail in the coffin of like 3D films, and people who think that 3D films are somehow more immersive, or that 3D films are how you make an immersive film. Yeah. Because this is as immersive a film as I've ever seen, and it is. I thought it was a very, very good film. I think I prefer Birdman, which is Alejandro González Iñárritu's previous film. Yeah. And it's not the best film ever, as I'm sure some people will think it is. But it is very good. Yeah. It's very, very good.
Yeah, and we could talk about the comparison with Birdman in a bit, but I agree with you. I loved the film. It was raw in all the right ways, emotional in all the right ways, violent in all the right ways, and due to the way it was shot, as you say, very beautiful as well. But it felt authentic, perhaps due to the deliberate use of lighting and stuff, which I've read about.
Yeah.
And although it was very extreme throughout the film. I don't think it ever strayed into hysteria.
No, I don't. I agree. I mean, there are no sort of.
There's nothing that's played for shocks.
No, there are no dramatic slow motion leaps over giant chasms or anything like that.
And the violence when he gets mauled by the bear. Obviously it's close up and it's very like you can't look away because it's so horrific.
Yeah,
but it's not like the bear's tearing his eyeballs out or.
Yeah, it's not sort of overdone. Yeah, you're right. I think also the whole film is very grounded. Aside from the sort of dream sequences, but even they have a sort of like, because of the way they're presented as just his hallucinations, and that's quite clear, I think, that they're just, there's no like implied supernatural thing going on. No. It's just him either dreaming or having a hallucination.
Yeah, because he's basically at death's door the whole film.
Exactly, yeah. I think that does give it a whole grounded thing. And you're right, the bear sequence is pretty stunning. It's like it's breathtaking in the fact that I mean, like, obviously Inarritu has a habit or his style is using very long unbroken takes, and that's no exception. That's like the whole scene takes place in one shot essentially.
And that gives it an air of authenticity. You're not cutting away to see certain angles or certain, like, I mean, what you could do with a monster attack or a bear attack of any kind is set up some sort of set piece where it's like, oh, his arm gets ripped clean off his body. Do you know what I mean by that? I mean, we're talking about Bone Tomahawk next week, and that's got a lot of things towards the end of that. And I mean, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. But where I kind of think, as much as that film starts out kind of grounded, it does stray into what I'd call B-movie territory, just because they go for this kind of like they're trying to imagine the grossest things they can.
Yes. And
this film is the opposite of that. It's kind of do the most realistic thing it can. Yeah,
there's despite the fact that he's obviously really injured very badly, there's very little sort of focus on injury detail or anything like that, which is something you sometimes get. I mean, like, we watched Backcountry recently, which has some injury detail. I'm still thinking about that guy's lips, and all that sort of thing. And I mean, there are bits which are, he gets a giant strip of flesh torn off his back at one point by the bear, which is pretty horrific.
It's unpleasant.
But it's more or less a sort of, like you said, sort of pretty sober portrayal of everything, like it is of all the events of the film.
I quite agree. There's something about the way they talk to each other, particularly in the opening scene. I mean, when Tom Hardy's character is first introduced and all the, these rough and tough guys... They're talking very quiet, like, through their teeth. And they're tired, and you kind of lean in.
Yeah.
And you're hanging on their every word, trying to work it out. And then suddenly it goes chaos, and I think he does that deliberately to draw you into that. So you think everything's quiet, and you're like, what's going on? And then suddenly, and the Indians are there.
That opening scene is pretty staggering, and we'll obviously talk about that probably at length a bit later. I wanted to talk about, like you mentioned, Tom Hardy's character, and we're talking about how grounded it is. I think the film's so grounded that it's impossible to not be impressed by Leonardo DiCaprio's performance. But what I wanted to ask you is whether or not you think that on its own equates to good acting, like a good performance. Because so I think he's basically nailed on to win the Oscar, right?
Right, because it's overdue.
Yeah, and also, well, that's one reason. Obviously, it's a good performance.
Yeah,
it's a very good performance.
Yeah, we can't take away... I mean, there's nothing in his performance that I would call... He doesn't put a foot wrong with it.
No, not at all. But I think that, like you say, he's overdue one, and the Academy Awards often do that.
Yeah.
He also has put himself clearly through an awful lot of unpleasant ordeals in order to achieve what he has in this film, right? But if you compare it to Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in There'll Be Blood, for example, right, where he shows the steady mental collapse of an individual over the course of about 20 years, right? There's nothing as actorly as that Leonardo DiCaprio does in the Revenant. He does, like, his performance, like, if you're considering the best actor Oscar to go to someone who has, like, sort of his performance defines the whole movie, right, and is like, you can't imagine any other person in that role or anything like that. Daniel Day-Lewis is an example of that with Daniel Plainview in There'll Be Blood. I don't think that Hugh Glass is an example of that necessarily, his performance as Hugh Glass, because I think it's such a physical and exhaustive performance, and like he should be credited for that, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was wondering how you felt. It's difficult to put this thought across, right? But it's like, I reckon, let's take the scene where he's hiding by the river and then he floats into the river, floats down the rapids and is exhausted on the other side, right? Mm-hmm. That's a good scene. Yeah. Very good scene. Like, stunningly shot and all that sort of thing,
and you're holding your breath along with it.
Yeah. I think if you or I were in that scene, we would also be as good potentially as Leonardo DiCaprio in that scene, because the acting that is happening is not based around like showing an internal struggle, right? It's showing fear, right, at things that are very real to Leonardo DiCaprio in that moment, because he's actually in an icy river and he's actually got people on the banks of the river and they're shooting guns and all that sort of thing, right? There's real fear there, obviously.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not trying to take away unnecessarily from Leonardo DiCaprio's performance, but I guess what I'm saying is that when the film and the production is so visceral and tangible, right, and they're in these real environments and he's doing all these things, I mean, there are probably only like 3 or 4 dialogue scenes in the whole film of him, and the rest of it is either sort of him responding to threats, dangers, injuries and all that sort of thing, which admittedly are very,
that's how, I mean, he hits the nail on the head with them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing wrong. When he's dragging himself out of the grave with one hand, it's amazing. And like, he's got that sort of locked up face when his son's being killed, and he's like foaming at the mouth. And that's amazing, right? But I just there's something about it.
So for you, an Oscar-winning portrayal should represent subtleties.
Like you couldn't take his performance and put it outside of the context of each scene. Right?
I mean, here's a question, right? Daniel Plainview, Daniel Day-Lewis. You could say no one else would be able to pull off that role.
Yes, exactly that.
But you could say that someone else could play Hugh Glass.
Potentially, You would go and watch a Daniel Plainview one-man show.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Daniel Day-Lewis is Daniel Plainview in like an acting masterclass.
Sure.
You wouldn't go and see Leonardo DiCaprio as Hugh Glass in an acting masterclass.
Well, I think I might, just on the basis that it exists.
Just lying on the stage and going... like dragging himself. No, it's an incredibly physical performance, and I think he is overdue the Oscar, right? I think he will win.
How about this? Would you have given it to him? Because I know you weren't a big fan of Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
But I think his portrayal in that film was good.
I agree. I think that Jordan Belfort is a 2-dimensional human being, and so his performance reflected that.
Yeah, but that's a deliberate
exactly.
choice.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't claim that Leonardo DiCaprio is not the polar opposite in terms of attitudes and things to Jordan Belfort. So
at the end of the day, Leonardo DiCaprio is not a fur trapper from 1820.
I agree. But it's
and I believe for every second that he was.
I guess that there's so much like screen furniture and like things going on in the film
for him to react to.
That are so physical. It's like I said, it's a really physical performance, right? That it's almost like there's no subtlety to his performance, and like even the scenes where he's like when he has a conversation with Captain Henry when he gets back to the fort, and it's like everything he's saying is sort of like, that man killed my son, and it's like,
that boy was all I had.
And it's like
but then that's if you asked him in the beginning of the film, if you said, look, Hugh Glass, what's your motivation? He'd say, that boy's all I have. And in the last scene, God, that boy was all I... There's no
but then like when you're he like it's almost as though, right, other than the scenes where he's like scratching Fitzgerald's name into rocks and things, there's at no stage in the film is there really any indication that, because like this film could be a film about him losing his son and then just deciding to not give up rather than like going all out in search of revenge.
Well, that's kind of what it is, isn't it? Because the mantra of the film is, as long as you've got breath, keep fighting.
Yeah.
And he does, and that That's his wife's words, and he carries on and he keeps going. And this brings us to the ending, which I'm going to save because it doesn't sit well with me. But speaking of strong physical performances, Tom Hardy, rightfully also nominated for an Oscar, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to get too tied up in he's up for an Oscar, but if that is a standard of acting, then he deserves it because.
I mean, it's considered, whether or not you agree with the Oscars and what they choose and all that sort of thing, it is considered the high benchmark of reflecting a film's like achievement. Right?
Yeah, and I agree with his nomination.
Yeah,
because you think of what Tom Hardy's been in, right?
Yeah,
he's been Charles Bronson, the prisoner.
Yeah,
which was a very physical performance, and he must have been in his 20s when he played like a 40-year-old man.
Yeah,
it's mental.
Who's like 40 stone as well.
He was Eames in Inception.
Yeah.
He was Forrest Bondurat in Lawless, which was like playing a man from London playing like a 1920s moonshine. Bane, obviously.
Yeah.
Mad Max, and The Craze in Legend, and now John Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
All of them are incredibly physical performances, incredibly diverse performances, and every single thing I've seen him in, I completely buy it.
Yeah.
I think he is probably one of the best actors around.
I think so, yeah. I think better than Leonardo DiCaprio, maybe?
Maybe.
I would say Tom Hardy has more to do, right, in this film than Leonardo DiCaprio. And whether that's just because of the script.
Yeah.
Right. What I mean is more to do in terms of like an acting performance, right?
Yeah, because he has to play with guilt.
Yeah. And like intimidating Bridger. Yeah. And but which, by the way, Will Poulter as well. Who'd have thought he was capable of a performance like this? Like I've only seen him in sort of like, you know, We're the Millers and, you know, like silly comedy films. Like, and I think he won the BAFTA Rising Star Award last year.
Right.
Like, fair enough. Like he's very, very good. Domhnall Gleeson as well. Yeah, he's very good. Like
I wonder whether just being with each other in this film was kind of like a motivating factor because they all seem to pull each other along.
There's not a bad performance at all in the film. No. And like I think I would say that Tom Hardy has more to do in his role, and like the scenes where he's talking about being scalped and things like that, you know, there's a monologue, you know. Like,
what I like about that scene is the guy's scraping the tin at the same time. He says, you feel the knife scraping on your head, and he's like, oh God.
Yeah, and he's very, very good at it. I think basically the film is a masterpiece in visual storytelling, and it's something that I know that there is a novel, right? But I think that as the story within the film would be very difficult to tell in any other medium, in the way that it has been shown. And I just don't think the story itself is that unique, and I don't think the protagonist is necessarily that compelling one. No. Like, you know, he's got one goal and he's like single-minded in his pursuit of it, and you know the film is about him not giving up and achieving it. Yeah,
exactly.
Well,
I don't know.
It sounds like I'm really down on it, and I'm not at all.
I think.
But do you know what I mean? Do you know where I'm coming from in terms of like if you're within that environment?
Yeah, he goes from A to B and nothing has changed except his son's dead.
Yeah,
like. What was the point in him doing it? That's I'm hinting at my reservations with how it ends.
Yeah,
and maybe you'll be able to explain it to me because you're a little smarter when it comes to things like this.
Okay.
But I want to talk about a few. We'll build to the end naturally. Let's talk about some key. Let's talk about some of the other survival aspects of the film.
Sure.
That's why we're here, of course. We don't want to lose track.
It's a film about survival.
Yeah. The get to the boat. That's in
the opening
massacre battle.
Yeah,
the only movie I'd watched this year in 2016 before Revenant was Gladiator.
Okay,
and it's amazing how many parallels there are in terms of the guy down on his luck has to come across fight people.
Down on his luck.
But even the dream sequences. In Gladiator they're absolutely gratuitous, and in this one maybe I'd been soured by watching Gladiator because it's a rubbish film. I really didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
But that seemed a bit like, get another one of these, another one of his wife. I like the one she was floating above him. I thought that was cool.
But I thought the imagery in all of them was interesting enough and stark enough to make it justified, I thought, because the scene where he comes across the giant mountain of buffalo skulls, and that can hint at, along with the fact that he's got a family with a Native American, that can hint about some like guilt about what the settlers did to the Native Americans, like, and all that sort of thing.
And I like when he hugs his son and it flashes out and he's hugging a tree. It's very okay. They're better than Gladiator. And the battle at the beginning, because Gladiator opens on a battle, and that's just like chaotic. It's like, oh, what's going on? And you can't really focus. And this, it seems to just like, is that Inuiti style of just following the action, and you don't break away for another shot. You follow the arrow as it moves. You follow the person on the horse, and it keeps you in the battle. Yeah,
it's almost like it reminds me of like, when you see like a tapestry of a battle, and it's like you move from left to right, almost like going from one end to the other, like seeing this massive battle unfold. But like I think the closest comparison that scene has is Saving Private Ryan.
I was going to say Star Wars. Okay. in The Force Awakens,
right?
When they attack Maz Kanata's temple. And it's all kicking off, and you follow Finn running across. Maybe not.
But like, what I meant in terms of just like how, because it's stunning, that opening scene. It's like I can't remember the last time an opening scene of the film it had that much impact. Like it's genuinely like really hard hitting, and like like you say, you see fucking like people getting decapitated, like. Arrows through necks, like people being like dragged along the floor bleeding, like this guy who shoots a horse in the head for like whatever reason. And then
why does he do that?
I presume it's to stop the Indians, the Native Americans stealing it. But like it's chaotic. It's almost like Saving Private Ryan in reverse, because they're all getting onto a boat and sailing off. It's like if you watch Saving Private Ryan backwards. But like,
and there were Indians Saving Private Ryan on horses. But the camera's not afraid either to just like sort of nod away and just follow an arrow arcing over everyone.
Well, it's got like a weird detached feel to it. Because like so many films now, and Saving Private Ryan's an example, like action scenes like that, you'll have handheld camera, it'll be shaking all over the place. You'll feel like really like penned in with all the people. In like a foxhole or a trench or whatever. Whereas this, it's like an omniscient eye, just like floating through the carnage, and just like there's the brilliant bit where they're actually on the boat and it's sailing away, and you pan from Leonardo DiCaprio firing a rifle like 180 degrees to like the rushing forces arriving at
and everyone like, don't go without me.
I thought it was absolutely amazing. Like there are a lot of long takes in the film, long continuous shots, and they must be so difficult, and they are so impressive when there's that much stuff going on. Like Birdman is obviously, it's not actually one shot.
No, but it's done
stitched together. And that is impressive, but that is moving through like a few different scenes that happen in isolation
in a set.
You can see how they pull that off. Like, it's like a theatre thing, right? Like you have like people dressing the set behind the curtain, and then the curtain opens.
Exactly. And you can imagine the camera's probably on rails.
Exactly.
And that allows it to go seamlessly into each scene.
Whereas
with this,
it's insane, isn't it? It's like incredible that they have someone, or it's incredible that they can have like such an intricate fight scene. Like if you think of like other fight scenes that take place on that sort of scale, they probably have individual shots of people like swinging axes and things, where they go, right now you like, man with axe, come stand here, you swing it or whatever. With that, I've no idea how they choreograph it all to be like on the screen, because it's not, you can't say that it's accidental. It's not as if like there's a man with a camera just like running around while all this like larpers are like all that's taking place. Like it's an incredible achievement. Like a lot of the film.
I mean, shortly after that as well, you've got the bear attack. So you get like a momentary lull of deep depression, because you're like everyone all our men are dead.
There's 45 of us now, there's 10 of us.
And then half of them get strung up by the Indians. And then Leo gets attacked by the bear. Which is the most I don't know. I mean, the backcountry one.
Mm-hmm.
Listeners to the show will know about the backcountry bear attack. Listen back to the backcountry episode.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which one. That was probably more horrific in terms of violence. But this was like so unpleasant, like because it was unbroken. At least with that one, it was over quickly. This one was just like
that demonstrates the difference in styles, doesn't it? Because backcountry is that whole shaky cam
and shock.
Whereas this is like it's almost like when a shot just holds like that. It's just going. You're gonna have to watch this. Like there's no. I'm not gonna turn away from it.
Yeah, everyone in the cinema sort of put their hands over their mouths in disbelief, I think.
Well, like when he's getting like clawed on the back, and like it's not like, you know, I think maybe, you know, if you cut to a hit or whatever, you know, in a fight scene or this isn't a fight scene. When you cut to a close up of an injury, it sometimes like lessens the impact because it's like creating a sort of cut in your brain, whereas with this it's just like there's no cut or anything. It's like you see the bear's claw come down and like he drags it along his back, and Leonardo DiCaprio's like but
he's also trying, I think he's
play dead.
He's just like
we'll talk about that later as well.
But he everyone's thinking I'd shoot the bear, which he does, and it absolutely
just makes it angry.
It's very brutal.
It's very convincing as well.
Oh yeah, that's it. I mean, it goes to show you there's not much you can do. Like he does everything you would think to do. And it does absolutely nothing.
You know, people. I'm sure people all know someone who, whenever you talk to them about something like this, like, oh, what'd you do if you got a bear attack? I just shoot it in the head, stab it or whatever. Yeah, good luck with that. It's brilliant.
Try putting the shot away.
I watched it and I thought it made me really annoyed that I knew anything about the film going in. Like
even the horse thing. That was so like, I forgot that was happening, but then I knew. So it's like,
but do you find yourself, you're watching the film and you're into it, and then something in your head goes, this must be where that scene fits in.
But it's the same with, I mean, we mentioned it when we talked about Star Wars. And if you haven't heard the episode, go to howtosurviveshow.com and find our episode on The Force Awakens. But it's that thing with Poe Dameron, right? In the trailer, I saw Poe Dameron on the ground and in an X-Wing. So when he shows up in the X-Wing, there's no surprise. I'm just like, when is he coming in the X-Wing?
Exactly. Spoilers for Star Wars. If you've seen the trailer.
Everyone's seen it twice now.
But you know, I mean, imagine seeing this film, like you might think that what they're doing is the old like Psycho thing where they cast a star in a film and then kill him or her off like a third of the way through the film. But like, you know, that would have been an amazing. Imagine watching that scene with no prior knowledge about it. Imagine seeing any of this film without having seen almost all of it. Like the bit towards the end where he's lying across the horse pretending to be dead, and then he like to fool Fitzgerald, and then he like whips the thing off and shoots Fitzgerald. So that's great, but I knew that it was coming.
Which brings us to the final scene of the movie. What I'd call the showdown. Which teaches us that Fitzgerald is a bit of a dick, isn't he? He's just a relentless cock.
Like unapologetically so.
Just the most nasty piece of work in any film ever.
You think?
Like Cruella de Vil, maybe worse.
The guy from Schindler's List.
Bad, yes.
What I thought was that scene and the way it's staged and everything sealed like the film's status as like a proper piece of like epic cinema. And I think in years to come that scene will possibly be looked at in a similar way to, for example, the end of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, or I'm not a fan of this film, but Kill Bill, or you know, any film like that has a climactic duel
showdown
at the end. But you know what I mean, it sort of completes the perfect narrative arc of the film basically.
Bad guy does bad thing. Good guy
chases him across hell and high water. And then brings him to justice, some form of justice.
Well, let's get to that because what?
So, what do you think happens?
Well, okay, as far as I see it, they fight. He gets the better of him, and he could deliver the death blow. and then the Indians show up and decide the war to the Pawnee. And at this point, they're not like friends with Leo or anything. They're not like going to save him necessarily.
No.
And then he says he remembers what the other guy said about revenge is in the hands of the creator. So he chucks the guy in the river.
Yeah.
And then the Indians grab him and scalp him.
What part of that is troubling you?
Well, because there's three options. A, Hugh Glass considers the Indians to be gods and judges in all matters of vengeance. Right? Because he says...
Yeah, I don't think you actually believe that, though.
B, Glass genuinely thought it could go either way. So I'll let the river decide.
Yeah.
And then the Indians just happened to be... Even though you could see them, they just happened to pick up and kill him. Or C, Glass knew that they would kill him and therefore wasn't leaving it to the gods and is an idiot.
My interpretation of it is that he is placing himself above the position of murderer, right, by not killing him, basically. You know, he's saying that he's doing the classic movie hero thing of not actually killing the villain because that would be to become what the villain is.
But to all intents and purposes, he does.
No, I know that, yeah. But secondly, I think him handing him to he obviously lets him adrift in the river because he knows the river will take him down to the Indians who are going to kill him, right? I think he does that because partially you could read it as a continuation of the theme that maybe he feels guilt over what white men have done to Native Americans, and he is like an ally of the Native Americans more or less throughout the film. Even though they attack him, he rescues Powaka, I think her name is, who is there in the final scene.
Yes.
So like it could be to do that, or it could be that he's using it as a bargaining chip.
Well, they're not exactly bloodthirsty. It's not like one death.
Yeah, but I didn't have a problem with it. I think it's sort of like he's washing his hands of it, and he's not.
Yeah, I get that much, but it's more like it didn't tie up neatly with it's in the hand. If he'd left him to die and walked off, that would be like for some reason we're talking about Kill Bill again, but when she doesn't actually kill Elle Driver, she leaves the black mamba snake in there to kill her. You know what's going to happen, but she doesn't actually kill her.
Or what about whether you think you could interpret it as obviously Fitzgerald is an enemy of Native Americans, right? In the sense that he hates them all, he's racist towards all of them. He kills Hawk, who is a Indian. So it could be that he's the creator is Mother Nature, and you know, because that is what that's what he's fighting throughout the film in order to get his revenge, isn't it? Right? Revenge is in the hands of the creator. If the creator wills it, i.e., if you survive all of these natural obstacles, right, you may be able to get your revenge, right? And because Native Americans are of the earth, you know, they are like, you know, this is their natural habitat, this is their homeland and all that sort of thing. They could represent in his eyes. I think.
Well, that's point A. Glass considers them to be gods.
No, I don't think it. No, that's you're being facetious.
Well, no, because he says
he's not saying they're gods. You're not seriously suggesting that he thinks they're gods. They could be godly men in his eyes. Right?
My point is more this: saying I'll leave it in the hands of the creator. He doesn't leave it in the hands of the creator because he knows what's going to happen. Like it would have been more Either he looks up, sees them there and thinks this will be a fitting end for this man, and thematically that would work because, like you say, Fitzgerald's been a bastard to the Indians, Glass is a friend of the Indians, and the Indians obviously owe him something, or nature thing. Or you leave that line in, leave it in the hands of the gods, and he just leaves him to starve or to die from his wounds, which would be leaving it in the hands of the gods, which is what he did for him.
Yeah.
Which is more thematically similar. Like, you see what I mean?
I get what you mean, yeah. My problem with the ending was more the weird looking down the lens shot that closes the film.
Yeah, he looks into the camera.
Which I thought was just like... I might get that screenshot and then just put for your consideration at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Because it is like Leonardo DiCaprio just looking at it, like looking down the lens, going, "What more can I do?" which also I was thinking, right? What if he doesn't win this year, right, for the Revenant? What is he going to do next? It's going to be like an escalation again, isn't it? Because like The Wolf of Wall Street was one thing, you know, him like going off the edge.
But the thing about everything he's done in order, right?
Yeah,
he hasn't actually been nominated for that many.
Academy Awards.
Academy Awards. I mean, comparatively, more than me.
It's 5.
More than you.
I think
it is 5 this year.
It's not up to John Williams' 50.
No, not quite. Well, he's got What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Don't know if you've seen that.
No,
I haven't. The Aviator, the Howard Hughes movie.
Yeah. So in that, he sort of is, a mental breakdown.
Yeah, that's more in the line of Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah. Which is, I can see that.
Yeah. That sounds like the sort of film that would win an Oscar.
Yeah.
For Best Actor.
Blood Diamond?
No, I don't think he would have deserved it for that.
Does a good accent. That's about it. Yeah. Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, I personally don't think he deserved it for that because I don't think there's enough character development. No. He basically stays the same person all the way through.
Yeah, he has a few breakdowns.
Which is pretty much the same as what happens in The Revenant.
Yeah.
There's no internal progression. I mean, who is he up against though?
This year, he's got Bryan Cranston.
Okay, I've not seen Trumbo.
No, but you like Breaking Bad. That's why he's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. You got DiCaprio, The Revenant.
Yeah.
Fassbender for Steve Jobs.
I've not seen that either.
No, but
it's a character piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's an actor. Yeah.
But Ashton Kutcher wasn't nominated, was he? So it must be better than that.
That's true.
And Eddie Redmayne for The Danish Girl.
Sure.
You seen that?
I haven't.
And the last one is, get this, Matt Damon for The Martian.
Right.
Which is frankly an insult to anyone who's seen the movie.
It's a very weird, American thing that seems to be The Martian is so highly rated. I thought it was a good film, but it's good. Not awards worthy.
It's not. Compare, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
Compare Matt Damon in The Martian with Daniel Plainview.
Yeah.
Or
Eddie Redmayne from last year, Stephen Hawking.
He played Stephen. He convincingly played a man with motor neuron.
Yeah.
Or My Left Foot.
Yeah.
Could play a man with cerebral palsy. Yeah. But you have to try. To be fair, I guess he did play a cocky jock in space. So
yeah, a man who grows some potatoes
and eats them.
Yeah. And I mean, when we go back and listen to our episode of The Martian, there's no point in that film where Matt Damon isn't just at the same level of enthusiasm and just well, I'm gonna have to grow some potatoes. It's just well,
it's okay because I'm a botanist, so there's no challenge.
I'm the best damn botanist on the planet. It's Academy Award winner Matt Damon.
Imagine it.
But yeah, just that's not a performance that's worth. Maybe has it been a bad year for films?
I don't know. Anyway, How to Survive. In The Revenant.
Just before we talk about How to Survive, Joey,
yes.
I've got a pop quiz for you.
Okay.
Could you build a fire?
Depends what tools I had, I guess.
Could you build, let's say you just washed up at the side of a river. Could you build a fire? Yes or no?
Well, yeah, if I had flint and kindling, in theory.
Yes or no?
In theory.
In theory, okay. Could you defend against a bear?
No.
Okay. Could you swim for a mile, let's say, in rapids?
When
was the last time you went swimming?
18 months.
Okay. Could you swim a mile anyway?
Yeah, I reckon I could.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty fit.
Okay. Pretty confident.
Yeah. But the rapids are
tricky.
There's a sharp rocks, mate.
Could you hunt?
Do I have a weapon?
Well, I mean, he makes a rock pool.
That's fishing.
Hugh Glass. Well, all right. Okay. Could you hunt or forage or prepare food in the wild? So
yes, with an if, no with a but.
If what?
If I had a weapon.
What weapon? Okay. Could you hunt with either a bow and arrow, a single shot musket, or what else do you have? A flintlock?
it would increase my chances over not having those.
That's things. True. Yeah. Are you any good at foraging? Would you know what herbs or grasses that you could eat?
If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, eat it down.
Okay, good. Foolproof. Could you prepare food in the wild in terms of skinning and getting rid of the parts of the food that you know are no good or poisonous for you?
I think all parts of a cow are good.
Yeah? Don't know. You don't sound massively confident.
Well, if
I was washed up at the side of a river with you, and you were saying, "I think you can eat all of a cow," right?
Yeah, but
I'd be going.
If it was two of us, one cow would last us a few days.
Imagine we get washed up at the side of a river, and we're like, "There's a cow there." Yeah.
How would you kill it? Would you?
Well,
I'd kill it in one punch.
Yeah, obviously. You'd have to wait for coyotes to come and bring it down, and then wait for another man to set fire to the coyotes. Yeah. I think this is the approved SAS method of hunting. No, I don't think either of us would survive.
No. I mean, no.
But one method of survival that would be a good idea, I think, for Hugh Glass.
Be Hugh Glass?
Well, obviously he does survive. We should say, if this is the first episode you're listening to, obviously each week we try and talk about how we'd survive in a film, even if the main character or most characters survive anyway, or no characters die anyway. Like any film that involves, a modicum of survival or peril.
Yeah. But it's overcoming it in a more efficient way.
Yeah. And I think this counts as a film that involves survival and peril.
Yes.
And one more efficient way that he would have survived. So let's say you're in Native American territory, you're exhausted, you're hungry, you're with a lot of people who are in the same boat as you, literally and figuratively.
Yes.
Do you go, listen guys, I know we're all tired, we need some food. Let's go and hunt. Many hands make light work, and we'll get it done. We'll get back here. We'll be safe in numbers, right? Or do you just walk off into the woods alone for a bit?
But if you were an expert tracker and wilderness the best person in the world at tracking beasts,
and his son, who he's seen hunting with in the opening scene, why doesn't he take him?
He's sleeping, isn't he? He's ill.
It's not as ill as bloody Hugh Glass is after the bear attack. Basically, just don't go off on your own.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's he's a bit tired.
He does survive the rest of the movie on his own.
Yeah.
With the help of an Indian.
Yeah. Which he wouldn't have done without the Indian. And also, he wouldn't have got himself in that situation. Don't go off on your own because, there's no reason to. Like I said, everyone else is in the same boat. I'm sure if you go, listen, Fitzgerald, I know we've had our difficulties and our differences. Please come and help me find some food. We'll find some food together.
I'll go nowhere with it, you and that goddamn half-breed son of yours.
It's all right, I'll leave my son here. It's fine, he needs rest anyway. He's feeling a bit poorly, a bit peaky. All right, let's just go out into the woods. I'm sure there's probably some elk.
Listen to me when I'm talking to you, boy.
Just elk. Why are you doing Jeff Bridges?
That's how he sounds.
No, it's not. That's Jeff Bridges in True Grit. That's just a man drowning.
Well, okay,
right. Why not hunt as a team?
Because you only have one gun.
That's not true. They've got loads of guns.
Yeah, okay, well, they've got other things to do.
There's one bit where Tom Hardy walks around with 3 guns on his back.
Yeah, but there's other things to do.
Other things to do?
If there's a camp, they're not just all sat around picking their noses.
What are they doing? Answering emails?
Building bivouacs.
Bivouacs? Yeah.
Building a bivouac.
Bivouac.
Fishing.
Yeah.
Because there's probably an expert fisherman.
Why not all just settle for fish? I'll tell you why.
Big appetites.
Yeah. Then all go out and hunt an elk then.
Okay, good point. Okay, I can't argue with you.
Yeah.
But then again, one bear could probably overpower many men.
Well, maybe.
But not many bullets.
No. Well, overpowers one.
Yeah, but not many.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. So what's your bit of advice? Have more than one gun on the go.
I'm going back to the ending because, as we've said, it doesn't make any sense. As we've agreed,
no,
it's a thin at best.
Okay, all right.
Ending because Hugh Glass comes to the conclusion that I'll leave it to God to decide if vengeance is necessary. If he decided that 2 days ago, 8 months ago, when he was in that grave, he could have saved himself a world of trouble, couldn't he? If he'd gone, you know what? This is in God's hands. I'll make my peace with Fitzgerald. He'll get what's coming to him somewhere down the line. if he goes around acting like that. Because he was bound to meet an early grave, wasn't he? He's been scalped once already for being a dick, probably.
Yeah, he doesn't look healthy, does he?
Running his mouth. It's gonna come back and bite him. You must realise that, Leo. And it's not like he gets his vengeance, like, personally. He gives it to the Indians, who are gonna... Do you know what I mean? It's just...
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, I do know what you mean.
So my advice is...
You've heard my thoughts on the ending, all right?
Yeah, but do you agree that he did... If he came to the conclusion it's in God's hands, did he do that?
What, did he leave it in God's hands?
Yes.
Yeah,
Then why didn't he do that earlier?
What, and give up?
Yes.
But it says
not give up on life, give up on...
Revenge?
Yeah.
Well, he basically, like, you know, if he'd got to that fort and they said, oh, no idea where Fitzgerald is, then, you know, like, survival and revenge went hand in hand, essentially, until he got to the fort, at which point he could have, you know, survived by just staying there.
And he'd have had the last laugh at that, wouldn't he?
Why?
Because he wouldn't be dead. And Fitzgerald would be dead.
Would he be dead?
Eventually.
Yeah, well, so would Hugh Glass. I don't know, Joe. I'm not a fan of this method of survival.
If Hugh Glass had decided not to pursue John Fitzgerald because he'd leave it in God's hands, would that have decreased his chances of survival?
Yes.
Why?
Because he probably would have just... He had no reason to live other than revenge.
So you're saying it's the revenge that he required in order to survive?
I think so. The possibility of revenge,
I suppose,
is what motivates him.
But then you don't... Oh, it's thin. It's thin.
You're really down on this.
I don't know if I am, or I'm just being contrarian for the podcast. I've kind of talked myself into it now.
Yeah.
But before we started talking, I was like, that's a good ending.
Yeah.
But now I'm wound up. And speaking of decisions that should have been made earlier, Fitzgerald could have survived by killing Leo.
Yeah.
He's not exactly shy of killing people. We see him kill at least 2.
So you're wondering why he doesn't kill...
He left him in the grave. And he's like, oh, we got to get out of here. Knowing that there's nothing coming, he could have just shot him in the head, stamped on his throat.
Yeah, but it's... he at least with smothering, he's able to claim that he just went quietly.
Yeah, but...
And then I think basically at the point when he's killed Hawke, he's in a bit of trouble, like in terms of you know, we don't know how much time passes between him killing Hawke and
Bridget returning.
So it could have been 5 minutes, in which case he wouldn't have necessarily have had time to stage Glass's peaceful death and hide Hawke.
Yeah, but I think even if he'd put him in the grave, and when he was in the grave and Bridget was like, we can't leave him, if he just said, well, I'll make the decision for you, and shot Glass in the head.
Yeah. Well, but Bridget's guilty enough about it, you know, and nearly shoots him because of it. Before all that. So like,
yeah, but it's done. What are you going to do? You can't achieve anything now.
Yeah, well then, you're talking about Fitzgerald surviving.
Yes.
Yeah, and Bridget might have shot him or confessed. There might have been a higher chance.
Bridget's a green boy. He's not going to shoot people.
Sure.
No, I suppose not.
Well, do you think were the shoes on the other feet that Hugh Glass would have done what John Fitzgerald did? Because my suspicion is that he might have done.
He was only in it for Hawke, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But that's all he cared about.
But if it's, you know, if Fitzgerald is lying there injured and it's putting them in a compromised position, putting Hawke in a compromised position, he's not going to think twice, is he?
No, exactly.
So, who's the real villain, Joe?
Nature. Well, that's kind of the point. Obviously, Fitzgerald is a big dickhead, but he's only the active antagonist for about 2 minutes of the film, right? He kills Hawke, tries to kill Leo, and then leaves him. And then the real villain in the film is nature and the uncertainty of what's around the corner. Like, there's no safe bets in this film. If you make a decision to go into a cave or something, then the Indians are going to track you there and attack you. Do you know what I mean? The real villain is chaos.
Well, no one is more representative as an agent of chaos in this film than the bear. Right. Now, there's some controversy here with here in How to Survive Towers, because a few weeks ago, episode 18, of the podcast, Backcountry, we discussed bear attacks and how to survive them.
Yes.
Right? In one of them...
That was a grizzly bear, wasn't it, Chris?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, what?
It was a black bear.
Oh, wow.
But what we said was that playing dead only works with brown bears, not grizzlies and not black bears, because they're too aggressive. They try and pick you up with their jaws to check if you're dead, which is what more or less happens in this film. Yes. Right? Now, on the Guardian website today, there was an appraisal of the survival methods throughout the film from Ray Mears.
The man himself.
Acclaimed survivalist Ray Mears. Hello, Ray, if you're listening. And in it, he discussed DiCaprio's method of surviving the bear attack, of playing dead. He says this: I've interviewed a woman who was mauled by a grizzly bear. She was out hunting elk with her husband when she saw a female grizzly bear with 2 cubs running towards her. She went for her rifle but fumbled, and the next thing, she looked up and the bear was in front of her. The bear stood up, put both of its paws on the rifle, and she stared at it in the eye, and that's where she went wrong. The bear then bit her in the face, the breast and the hip, and she pretended to be dead. It then left her alone. My issue with Ray Mears' supposed survival technique here. I don't know, he's a professional.
Is it the biting on the face, breast and...
Well, that's anecdotal evidence, isn't it? Yeah. If ever I heard it. I knew a woman once who did it and it was fine, right?
My mate says.
Therefore, it's fine, right? I mean, in fairness to him, the situations are startlingly similar between this unnamed woman... And I'm not saying that Ray Mears is making up.
Sue Glass.
Sue Glass from who's a fair trader. So let's look at the details. It's a grizzly bear. She was out hunting elk. She saw a female grizzly bear with 2 cubs. The bear came running towards her, and she went for a rifle but fumbled. I mean, I'm suspicious. I think Ray Mears may be out there trying to discredit the How to Survive podcast by claiming facetiously, fictitiously, that...
Knowingly as well.
Yeah, that methods of survival posited on this here very show are not up to scratch.
It's fighting talk, if anything.
Yeah.
So, listen, Ray. Listen, Mr. Big for your boots. This is an open challenge. Next week, we want to hear from you. How would you survive in Bone Tomahawk? And don't pretend you haven't seen it. Don't pretend you never heard of it.
Everybody's seen S. Craig Zala's 2015 film Bone Tomahawk, Ray. Don't pretend that you haven't for a moment.
You can knock that off right now. I have one final thought on how to survive in The Revenant.
Okay.
This is based on my own studies.
Sure. English?
No, but... a book I read.
Right, okay.
But the movie's set in 1820 in the area formerly known as the Louisiana Purchase, which is a huge expanse of land. But based on the snowfall, I'm going to guess it's somewhere near the north, around the sort of Canadian border. We'll call it Montana.
Okay.
Obviously, the men depicted in the movie are somewhat entrepreneurial. They've travelled a long distance to get elk skins.
Yeah.
Here's my advice. Head about 1,331 miles away from where you are to an island called Haida Gwaii off the coast of Canada. These were islands which were first settled, for want of a better word, in the early 1800s.
Okay.
Mostly because of the huge amount of sea otters living in the water.
Okay.
The sea otter only exists in the North Pacific and is unique among mammals. Whereas the human head may be covered with 100,000 hairs in total, the sea otter can produce up to 600,000 hairs per square inch.
Right. Very dense fur then.
Yeah, making it very, very soft.
Okay.
And it's also an abnormally low fat content, making it very silky and, a good skin if you were a fur trader. Now, although you would still have rivalries with the French and other European tradesmen and fur trappers, you wouldn't have so much trouble with the natives initially. First of all, the natives were kind of subdued by the wealth and the and the cool technology you were bringing over.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, when they were given enough guns, they started having trade-offs. So you'd go and sell them the guns, and once you'd sold them the guns, they'd turn them on you and kill you all, like in a drug deal gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually the natives that ended up hunting the sea otter to near extinction.
Okay.
Because they became so hungry and greedy for white man money. Oh my God.
Right. Okay.
But that wasn't for some years later. So my suggestion is there's more money in sea otters.
Okay. So sea otters rather than bigger beasts.
Yeah, I think so.
Any bears on the Haida Gwaii?
Not specified in the book.
Okay.
I mean, it's a big place. There's lots of wildlife. It's actually the home of the most dangerous profession outside of the army, which is logging.
Okay. What, even back in 1800?
Especially then.
All right.
Mm.
Okay. So
if one of those slips. Oh boy.
Well, then you probably don't want to go there.
Yeah, I suppose.
Is it a method of long-term?
Go there for sea otter hunting. Don't go there for logging.
Okay. All right. We've had someone write in a method of survival. Tom writes in to say, if I was going to survive in the Revenant, I would make an active effort to get on with everyone on my team and be as diplomatic as possible, as clearly teamwork is required for survival.
Very good, very good.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, have you read How to Make Friends and Influence People?
Yes.
Obviously, part of that book is about taking an active interest in others.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Hugh Glass could have taken an interest in John Fitzgerald's racism.
Yes.
His scars.
Yep.
His penchant for violence, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I agree, yeah. I mean,
finding some common ground in there somewhere?
It comes back to a firm favourite of mine in these situations, which is emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Just take any interest in other people.
John, I know you've had your differences with Native Americans, and conversely, I've found them to be a welcoming and loving people.
Yeah.
As you'll see from my son is living evidence of that.
Yeah.
I know that we are at odds on this topic, so I won't bore you with my opinions on it. I disagree with your view on them, but I respect you for having it, and I die for your right to hold it as your opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think he's also a bit... I mean, I think Glass is a bit too needy when it comes to his son.
Okay.
You need to let him off the leash a bit, do you know what I mean? The guy wants to go explore, wants to make friends.
Yeah.
Let him fight his own battles.
So yeah, thanks for that email suggestion, Tom.
Yeah, very good, Tom.
And obviously, if you, the listener, would like to get in touch, the email address, as ever, is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. You can also go to the website, which is howtosurviveshow.com, where you'll find our back catalogue of previous episodes, as well as information on what's coming next, and our exclusive website-only episode covering Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
And thank you very much for listening. Next week, we're covering the 2015 movie Bone Tomahawk. Ray Mears will no doubt be in touch before then, but in the meantime, go ahead and watch it. It's Bone Tomahawk. You can find it online somewhere, Amazon. Just look it up.
Yep.
And go ahead. And in the meantime, as long as there's breath in your body, keep fighting.